Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday, Sretan Patak, and Sretna Nova Godina. Happy New Year. I am Sarah of Expat in Croatia, and this is 5 Question Friday. Every Friday at 5 o'clock Croatia time, I answer 5 questions about Croatia from people who have sent them in on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, expatincroatia.com, email, our consulting sessions, and people who send them via carrier pigeon. Hello, hello. I am in Zagreb, and I barely made it here. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. I've been everywhere. I've been in Zagreb, Vienna, Split, Sarajevo, Split again, Zadar, and now Zagreb. And I have driven in 3 winter storms. It's a miracle that I'm sitting here in front of you today. So let me tell you a little bit about my adventures, starting with the winter storms. Croatia's been like snowless for a number of years now. And I love snow because I didn't grow up with snow. I never experienced real snow. I've probably only seen snow, like real actual snow, probably 2-3 times in my life. And that big crazy winter storm that Croatia had in 2012, I moved here 2 months after that happened. So I did not get to experience skiing on Split's Riva, sadly. But the last 2 weeks, there have been some crazy winter storms in Croatia, and I've gotten the joy of driving in them. So, as I said, I haven't experienced snow, which means I do not know how to drive in snow either. So the first time was when I was coming back from Vienna to go down to Split, and I was coming around like Karlovac, and they set up on the thing, like they're going to close the highway at Sveti Rok. So if you have not driven from north to south in Croatia, we have like 2 major highways, and you take this one to go down to Split, Dubrovnik, Zadar, and at a certain point you have to go through a mountain pass. And sometimes that mountain pass gets closed if the weather is really bad, particularly wind. Wind is the big deal because we get really strong bora that flows over that mountain range. So if the bora is too strong, then they will close that mountain pass. So what that means is that you have to get diverted off to a local road, which will then add at least 3 hours to your drive if you're trying to go as far south as like Zadar, Split, or Dubrovnik, okay? So, coming down past Karlovac, I'm starting to see, okay, there's like snow on the ground. And then I start heading on the southern highway and I see, oh, there's like snow everywhere. And then it's like, okay, snow is dumping from the sky. Okay, now I can't see the highway anymore. And there are big, huge drifts of snow that are like 2 meters deep on either side, and all the cars are kind of going down one narrow channel in the middle. And all of the signs are frozen over where you can't read them, like some kind of dystopian winter apocalypse, like day after tomorrow kind of thing. And I thought in my head, okay, they're going to kick us off the highway because Sveti Rok is closed. And if they do that, they're going to kick us off to go north. And if you go north, you have to go through Knin and along the Bosnian border, which would be worse because it is north and more north and colder. And one time I was taking a bus from Split to Zagreb, and it was another winter-like storm that had closed Sveti Rok, but I was going north this time. And we went through Knin because that is how you would usually reroute. And we got stuck in Knin with the bus because of a very similar, pretty much identical winter storm. And so we had to stop the bus, and all of the windows on the bus were starting to freeze over, and the bora was just kind of knocking the bus back and forth like this. And I was like, this is where I die. All right, well, hopefully someone will take care of my cat. So I thought to myself, like, that doesn't make sense to like wait until the very end and have them divert us north, and that could be even worse because this was really, really bad. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get off at Ghost Beach, which is quite a bit earlier from where they would divert us, because we just had to get on the other side of the mountain, because on the other side of the mountain, it would be rain at worst, So how do we survive this? And I called a Croatian friend and I was like, look, I got to vet this with somebody. Does this sound like a sound plan to get off at Ghost Beach and go over the mountain pass by Paklenica and down to Karlobag, which is right on the coastline, you know, facing Pog, and then get on the highway after that? She said yes. And I was like, great. A Croatian supports my plan. So we're exiting on Ghost Beach, and the snow is just drifts, just giant piles, drifts. You can't see the highway. And we're coming to the Cestadino, like where you exit the toll room, and they had the bar up and a sign that just said, don't stop. Like, keep going. And I was like, oh, this isn't good. So getting into Ghost Beach, and it's just desolate winter wasteland, and no one's coming behind us. I was like, how am I the only one with this idea? This makes me worry. And this was right as the sun had set, so it was officially dark and wintry, and we're going through Ghost Beach, and it's just dumping snow, and the road is just getting more and more just stacked up with snow and ice. And after you go through Ghost Beach, which, fun fact, near where Nikola Tesla was born. So we get on the other side of the village, and we're going towards Paklenica, which is, you know, a mountain there. And first you have to go up a little bit on the mountain, and then you come down the other side, and you kind of serpentine all the way down. And as we're getting close to the mountain, it's just no cars, nobody, just us. And the visibility goes to like zero. Like, I could not see to the end of my hood because the bore wind was so strong, and there was so much snow that it was blowing the snow like this in front of the car. You couldn't see anything at all. And it would get to a point where it was so bad, like you couldn't see even to the hood because of all the snow blowing back and forth, that I just had to stop and like freak out for a second. And then, of course, just like when I was in Cannes with the bus, the bore was just blowing my car just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I remember we went through this tunnel, and I was like, ooh, we can get like a little bit of a break, you know, going in this tunnel. No, that is not what happened at all. The tunnel just created like a vortex with the bora like this. And so then we just entered this snow tornado that was like worse. So anyways, kept going. It had no choice. It was like, look, we can't turn around. It's worse behind us. We're just going to have to go as slow as possible, like 5 kilometers an hour, just inching down. And I had the, even though I knew where I was going, I had the navigation up just so I could see like, oh, we're 19 kilometers from the sea. And then 20 minutes later, we're 18 kilometers from the sea. And it was just we could not make any movement. But then about halfway down the mountain, we ran into a police car who had his lights on and was slowly coming down the mountain to try and like look out for people. I have never been so happy to see a police car in my whole life. So thankfully we had him in front of us, and he kind of guided us down the rest of the way, which was, thank goodness. But it was like, an 8-hour drive turned into about a 13-hour drive, I'd have to say. So that was the first time that happened. And now today we left Zadar and we were coming back up to Zagreb, and it was just torrential raining all the way to the pass. And then when we were climbing up Sveti Rock, which they had not closed yet, but I'm guessing it's closed now. I would not be surprised. It became the wintry mix in the bore, and it was like da 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 da. And then we finally get into the tunnel, and I'm like, you know what? We're going to come back out the other end, and it's going to be exactly like it was 10 days ago when we did this before, and it was. It was just dumping. So I go back to Split tomorrow, and I was like, I cannot do this again. The stress will kill me. I'm trying to survive in this, even though it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was not bad. It was a great experience. And the person I was with helped guide me through it on how to drive in snow and ice. So I do feel like I learned a lot from doing that, but I cannot handle it. So I will be back in Zagreb next week for work anyway. So I'm just going to leave Isabel at a friend's house and I'm going to fly back to Split so I do not have to do that again. Watch it be a snowpocalypse again next week when I drive back home. But anyway, so that has been part of my experience on this holiday. Did Advent in Zagreb. That was pretty cool. Did Advent in Vienna, which was super spectacular. Then went over to Sarajevo to visit some friends, had some cevapi, because anyone who comes to Croatia usually gets told that the best cevapi is in Bosnia. So we had cevapi there and some really amazing goulash and lots of nice snacks. And we had this, has anybody had this before? It's a hot drink that they serve in wintertime that's made from the orchis root. So they mash it up and then they serve it with like cinnamon and some other warm spices. So it has a little bit of a gelatinous quality to it. I've never tasted anything like that before, but that was a really nice thing to try. Then back down to Split. And that's where I spent Christmas and New Year's was amazing. So the cover photo for today's episode of 5 Questions is from New Year's on Riva and Split. Usually I'm more of a hermit on New Year's, but this year one of my most favorite Balkan bands was playing on Riva, Dubioza Collective, who are from Bosnia. And I mean, Riva was like packed. It was a giant party. And of course, like any Split party, they had to bring out the flares. So at a certain point, like all of Riva was just lit up in red. It was a bonkers party. I hope you caught our stories because I did post a couple of videos from the countdown and then immediately after the countdown of what Riva looked like. But it was a pretty good time. So yeah, then did a quick jaunt up to Zadar, and now I am here in Zagreb. So I think I've caught you up now. Thank you so much for being here. This is our first episode of the new year. Now, as I've told you the last couple of months, Cam is now going to do the first episode of every month, but since this is the first one of 2025, yours truly is here. Cam will be here next week. So we're going to go ahead and dig into the questions. What do you say? All right, so if you're just joining us, I'm so happy that you're here. I am Sarah of Expat in Croatia, and now I'm going to answer 5 questions about Croatia. Sound good? Excellent. All right, so this first question comes from Leanne on the 5 Question Friday forum. My husband is applying for a digital nomad permit, and I will apply for family reunification based on his status. His health insurance covers both of us, so will I need to pay for Croatian state health insurance? Yes, you will, because with the digital nomad permit, the digital nomad, the person who actually is doing the remote work and is applying for the residence permit based on their remote work, they get certain benefits, but those benefits only apply to the digital nomad. They do not apply to the spouse. So one of those benefits is that you do not have to sign up for state health insurance. Like you have to provide some kind of private health insurance just to prove that you're insured for the purposes of applying. And that should take care of you for the time that you're there. But in terms of the spouses and children, they have to have their own state health insurance. You can't sign up for that until after you've been approved, but you are required to sign up for that. But the digital nomad themselves, they can stick with private. They're not required to sign up for state health care. And while we're talking about the benefits that digital nomads get, also, they are allowed to work for a company not registered in Croatia, and they also get a tax exemption on their working income. So a spouse technically is not allowed to work for anybody. Doesn't matter whether it's a remote company or Croatian company, they cannot work at all, and they do not get a tax exemption. So I have a couple of guides that we can send you. One is how to apply for the digital nomad permit, includes all the requirements, some FAQs. We did have an FAQ guide, but we have now merged those into one giant super guide. So we have that. And then we also have a guide on Croatia's basic state health insurance that will go over the costs and what it includes and all that kind of stuff. So if you would like those, if you're on Instagram, send us a DM. If you are on YouTube, the link is down below in the description. Any other channel, just comment us and we will get it over to you. So Ken Croat, hello. Hazazeo buying is about €1,000 and then €100 per month. It's a little bit more now because I think the rate for this last year was about 96 euros. So that comes out to about 1,200 euros for the initial buy-in if you're signing up for state health insurance for the first time. But the insurance rate is going to go up. It always goes up in about February usually because it's calculated based on the average net salary from the previous year. So once that 2024 average net salary is released, usually in February, they're going to recalculate the insurance price and it will go up. Usually it only goes up about 2 to 3 euros per month. It's usually kind of a negligible increase. So yes. All right, our next, let me see, we've got a question from Ambiv75. Can you apply for a digital nomad permit if you're self-employed in another country? Yes, you can, but I want to unpack that a little bit. So when they first released the digital nomad permit, it was like you can do any kind of work as long as you're not working for a registered company in Croatia or working for clients in Croatia, okay? But that's pretty broad. That allowed for a lot of different kinds of working scenarios. But then after a couple of years, they realized that they were getting a lot of applications based on work that the Croatian police really couldn't wrap their minds around. And so as a result, they kind of narrowed the focus. And so now it's, okay, you need to be employed by a foreign company or you need to own a foreign company. Those are kind of the two scenarios. So yes, you can be self-employed, but they're going to want to see that you have some kind of registered entity. That's a great question. Thank you so much. All right, so this next question, this is an anonymous question that came in through Instagram. I'm an Indian, and if my child is born in Croatia, will he or she get permanent citizenship? So there's no permanent citizenship, it's just citizenship. I just want to make sure that that's clarified. And also, no, I mean, let's just, for the sake of this question, assume that the other parent is not a Croatian either, okay? So Croatia does not have birthright citizenship. What that means is that just because a child is born on the territory of Croatia does not mean that they are entitled to citizenship. To get Croatian citizenship by birth, at least one of your parents has to be a Croatian citizen. And that goes the same for if you're born abroad. If you're born abroad to at least one Croatian parent, then you can get Croatian citizenship by birth, okay? Now, there are some exceptions to this. So it's also possible for a child to get Croatian citizenship if both parents have acquired citizenship through naturalization, or if by naturalization only one parent acquires citizenship and the child lives in Croatia and has an approved permanent residence. Okay? So by naturalization, we're talking about Article 8, which requires that you relinquish your current citizenships that you already have. Okay? So couple of things we can send you. One is a reference from the Croatian Ministry of the Interior's website on citizenship for foreign minors. We also have our guide to citizenship in Croatia by naturalization. So if you're on Instagram, send us a DM. If you are on YouTube, these links are down below in the description. Everybody else, drop us a comment. We'll get these over to you, all right? So next is Simona on email. Does public transit, like trams or buses, run during the holidays? So yes, it does. However, they usually have a reduced schedule. So some cities will publish like a special holiday schedule that you can always reference if it differs from their usual schedule. So most often the bigger cities, they have a holiday / Sunday schedule. Okay, so they treat Sundays and holidays the same way. However, there are certain cases, like New Year's is a great example in Zagreb, where because of all the festivities going on, they have an alternate schedule, in which case they usually publish those a few days in advance. Okay? So yes, we do have a very extensive guide on Croatia, or we have guides to all of the public transit systems in Croatia. So if you'd like any of those, you know how to find us. And everybody, welcome who's just joining us. I'm so glad you're here. All right, this brings us to our lawyer tip of the week. Da, 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 da. All right, so today we're going to start with a question, and then I'm going to answer that question using a lawyer tip, okay? So this question comes from Adriatic Bukic. My father has recently passed away and has rights to some land in his former village. How do I register to acquire the land in my name after it has been willed to me? Okay, so this is the answer straight from a lawyer, all right? A will is not a document that has any formal effect on its own. It must be accompanied by legal probation. Being named as a beneficiary in a will means nothing if you haven't participated in a formal process by a legal authority, such as the court or a public notary. When a person dies in Croatia, the inheritance procedure is randomly assigned to a public notary. It is then their obligation to contact the heirs and call them for a hearing on inheritance. After that hearing, they make a decision on how the assets are divided. No country in the world has the means to find heirs across the world if they are not already on record in Croatia. So if your Croatian relative has passed away and you haven't heard from a notary within 1 to 2 months, then you must be proactive. Hire a lawyer and have them check the status of the inheritance, period. Okay? So that is done with the lawyer tip, but I want to make sure that I emphasize this, okay? Because not every country deals with inheritance the same way. And in Croatia, it's a fairly automated process. So people don't necessarily have wills in Croatia because the way that the government handles it is that they just divide everything amongst the heirs pretty automatically. And if you were born and raised in Croatia, you lived your entire life in Croatia, all of your relatives in Croatia, then that's a pretty easy thing usually to happen. Okay, that process is pretty straightforward. But if the person who has the property lives abroad or their heirs live abroad and Croatia doesn't know about those heirs because, okay, here's a great example. You've got a great-grandfather who died and he has property here in Croatia and you don't have Croatian citizenship, but you were born in the States and you never came to Croatia, you never acquired citizenship. Croatia's not going to know you exist. How would they know that you exist? You're not a citizen. You know, you've never attached yourself to your great-grandfather. So they're not going to know that you are entitled to any of his stuff, if that makes sense. So that's why if you are abroad, you have to be proactive in these situations. So using a lawyer in this case is going to be necessary. So if you see it coming, be proactive. Okay? So we do have a wonderful guide called How to Die in Croatia. Actually, it's a 4-part series. And in part 4, we talk about how to make a will and everything you need to know about wills in Croatia and inheritance. So if you like that, Instagram people, send us a DM. YouTube people, it's down below in the description. Everybody else, drop us a comment. We'll get it over to you, okay? You can also always go to expatinCroatia.com and you can search for these things. Our next question comes from Carrie here on Instagram. I'm a Croatian dual citizen living outside the European Union. Am I classified as a third country national for the purposes of traveling through the Schengen zone? So it all depends on what passport you use when you enter Croatia or the Schengen zone, okay? So when you enter, you have to adhere to the rules that apply to the passport that you used. So if you enter with a third country national passport, doesn't matter if you're a Croatian citizen, doesn't matter if you're a Polish citizen, they're going to apply the rules of a third country national because you used your third country passport. So if you want to benefit from Croatian rules, Croatian citizen rules, or EU rules, then you need to enter with your Croatian passport or your EU passport. Make sense? Okay. Oh yeah, there's something else I wanted to add about this. So regardless of whether you're doing third country or EU, you still have to abide by certain rules, okay? So EU citizens can travel Schengen zone freely. Third country nationals can only be in the Schengen zone for 90 days in a 180-day period, okay? But EU citizens freely. They don't have limitations. That being said, they do have a limitation that is the same as third country nationals. You cannot spend more than 90 days in a single country in Europe, EU, Schengen zone, doesn't matter, without making your presence known. So like if a German wants to come and stay in Croatia for longer than 90 days, they have to go to MUP, to the police, and register for residence. So the same would be said if a Croatian wants to go and stay in France for more than 90 days, then they would have to go to the authority in France. I think it's the police, but I'm not sure because I don't do France, I do Croatia, and register for residence, okay? So we do have a guide about Croatia and the Schengen zone with a pretty extensive FAQ and kind of everything you need to know to understand what that means. So contact us, we'll send it to you. All right, so we've got our last question from Barbara on the 5 Question Friday forum. We are interested in a long-term secure storage for a car that has been purchased in Croatia. This would be for 3 to 6 months so we can travel back to the US and then return to Croatia later. What are the car storage options near Split and how do they work? So the simplest and safest option would be to rent a parking slot or a garage somewhere in the city. The closer to the city center it is, the more expensive it will likely be. Now, Split in particular has many garages that average only 40 euros per month, which is pretty good. I mean, in Zagreb and surrounding areas, it can be more than 100 euros per month, and that is on the low end. But she's asking for Split, and Split parking garages are 40 euros a month. So it's actually not bad. And you know, not all parking garages in Split are created equal, so it's important that you kind of check those out. I do have a reference for that. So splitparking.hr, they're the ones who manage the parking garages in Split, and I've got a link directly to the pricing and the list of all of the parking garages. If you would like that, send us a DM, link below, comment, all that kind of stuff. So that's it. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for being here. So let me tell you about what's next. So I return to Zagreb on Monday night. Monday is a holiday, FYI. It is Three Kings Epiphany. So it is a state holiday here in Croatia. And at the end of the day, I'm going to fly back here to Zagreb because Tuesday I am going to be interviewing the current U.S. ambassador to Croatia, but current for like 15 more days, which makes me a bit sad because I like her tons. I think that she's been a really wonderful U.S. ambassador. But the nature of the U.S. government is that whenever there's an administration change, all the ambassadors have to submit a letter of resignation, and then the new administration can decide whether or not they want to accept it or not. And it sounds like they have accepted the resignation of everybody in the world, all of the ambassadors, and that unfortunately includes our current U.S. ambassador, Natalie Reyes. So that's a big bummer. I like her a lot. I think she's been a great ambassador here. I've gotten the opportunity to meet her a couple of times. I got to interview her back in September, and I'm really glad that I at least get the opportunity to interview her one last time. So this is kind of a different kind of interview. The last interview I did was at the Association of Croatian American Professionals, like meet and greet event for the ambassador. And so we talked about, you know, Croatia a lot and what the U.S. Embassy's kind of role is in Croatia. But this is going to be different. This is for the Global Leadership Summit, which is going to take place in Split at the beginning of February. So we had invited her to do the interview at that, but because she's leaving, we're pre-taping it. So I'll be interviewing her about leadership, her leadership journey. So I'm pretty stoked about that. So I'll be doing that on Tuesday. And if you won't be attending the Global Leadership Summit, that's okay because it is going to be recorded. And after the conference, I will be able to share that interview with all of you. So excited about that. Hi, Kathy. So nice to see you here. And that's kind of it, I think, for the moment. I've been in serious vacation mode the last couple of weeks, which has been wonderful. I'm really grateful I got the opportunity to kind of like really go around and experience the holidays. So yeah, next week is Cam. Cam will be back and she'll tell you all about her holidays. And then I will see you guys in 2 weeks. So ugodan vikend. Thank you so much for being here. I always cherish these Fridays. So nice to see you in 2025. I'm looking forward to another year here at Expat in Croatia. And let's see what happens. So vidimo se, ciao, bok.